Hi, I'm Zaakirah, and I am the host of the See Life Different podcast. This podcast is perfect for you if you are a Black, Indigenous, woman of color, ready to step outside of your comfort zone. This podcast will inspire you, empower you, and educate you on how to see life differently, whether it's in your business or in your personal life. I am a cancer survivor, brand cultivating strategist, author, and world traveler. Let's get into it. Before we dive into this episode, a quick note. This is a re-release of a conversation originally shared via social media as a live stream. 1 year later, it's being repurposed for the podcast. While the personal stories shared here remain the same, here is an updated statistic and resource. There are currently 1.3 billion people worldwide living with disabilities. If you are seeking guidance on making your events or venues more accessible and inclusive for the disability community, visit my website to book a consultation at zaakirahnayyar.com, zaakirahnayyar.com. In this episode, I chat with Erin Perkins, an entrepreneur who lives with Usher Syndrome, a condition that impacts both hearing and vision. Erin shares her journey of navigating life with hearing and vision loss and how it led her to create her business, Mabley Q, which helps other businesses adopt accessibility best practices. I also share my personal story as a retinoblastoma eye cancer survivor. Erin and I reflect on our experiences living with disabilities, the challenges we've faced, and the lessons we've learned. We discuss the impact of societal perceptions, the importance of advocating for better support and understanding, and offer actionable advice on improving accessibility in various settings. This episode is an exchange about resilience, professional growth, and the importance of creating a more inclusive world for everyone. Thank you for listening, and be sure to share with others. Hello, and welcome to Disability Pride Month. This is the month of July, and there are thousands, if not millions, of people who are disabled in the world. And today we're having conversations with two of them on what it's like to be disabled. I'm Zaakirah Muhammad. I am a retinoblastoma eye cancer survivor. That means I can only see you in one eye right now. I have a prosthetic eye, which was surgically removed when I was 6 months old. So since then, I've only known life with one eye. As a result of the surgery, I also had radiation treatment, which affected my hearing. So I heavily depend on captions online. I'm also a brand strategist, the author of the book Seeing Life Through a Different Lens, and I recently became a TEDx speaker talking about the same thing that we're going to talk about today. And if you're interested in looking that up on YouTube, you can look for the title of Seeing Life from a Different Lens. And as a result of the success of the TEDx talk, I'm working on building a documentary series where we can continue this conversation and talk to other women of color who are going through the same thing, either have the same type of eye cancer that I have, or they also have other eye cancers. So now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Erin, and we'll let Erin introduce her disability, her creativity, and really let you know who she is.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Erin Perkins, and my disability is called Usher Syndrome. But most people don't necessarily know what that is because my disability, it affects my hearing. So I was born deaf. I grew up with a hearing aid in both ears my whole life. At the age of 29, I got a cochlear implant on my left side. I will say I'm not a fan. I definitely rely on captions and just trying to communicate. My parents put me and my older sister through speech therapy. So I had speech therapy all the way until seventh grade. And then we also know American Sign Language as well. I have different ways of communicating with people. It wasn't until I was 21 when I found out that I was also losing my vision, which brings me to Usher syndrome. If it's just the vision loss, it's called retina pigmentosa. So when I go to the doctor, I have to say, I'm deaf and I have retina pigmentosa because they don't necessarily understand what it means. What retina pigmentosa means is, I hope I say it. I don't know if I say it. No one's ever corrected me on it. I have lost a peripheral vision. Right now, I'm between 40 to 50 degrees of peripheral vision Most people see about 180 degrees. If you're standing next to me, chances are I don't see you and I probably won't hear you. So there's that. So I'm not being rude. I just literally can't see or hear you. And yeah. And about my business is Mabley Q. I teach businesses how to be accessible beyond just the physical aspect and your website. A lot of people, when they think about accessibility, it's all about, oh, I need to make sure my website's there. But we're forgetting about the social media, the email, the podcast, the events like this that we want to make sure are accessible. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that both the in person and online side. I think for background context of how we met, we're both a part of a online community. We used to be in person and now it's hybrid, a community called Rising Tide Society, which is a community for creative entrepreneurs. And there's the community of creatives. And so I want to go backwards as to your why. Why did you end up choosing to be creative and choosing to start Mabley Q?
So I was for corporate for most of my life. Right out of college, I went into a nonprofit, ended up in the corporate industry, and always, and my boss always joked, but I took it personal that if it wasn't for me joking about my deafness, that she probably would have never hired me. And that always pained me in a sense because for me, I feel like, you know what, that is a crutch. I'll joke about my disability because I can. I don't take it personal. But when somebody tells me that it is something that you could use against me, it feels mean. It feels cruel. So I worked for the corporate for 12 years and then they laid me off. And I realized at that point, if I continue with going with another corporation, I would end up in the same cycle over and over again. So I decided to give a shot at doing my own business. But I realized if I wanted to learn from other small business owners and creatives, there was this barrier of online where a lot of people did not close caption stuff. And I was like, I can't learn from you if I can. And they were like, oh, I didn't know any better. And that's not their fault. Like society is not designed for disabled people. It is designed for able-bodied people. And so I started having to figure out how to educate them myself because I always had stuff handed to me because to support disability people with disabilities, it is easier when it's a big entity. But if it's just you as a small business owner, it is so much harder. And usually the small business owners, I feel like, are a lot more passionate about wanting to support other people.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned your story. I feel like I have a similar story. One is I'm a creative at heart and I will do follow my gut anyways. Despite having my fair share of jobs, I've always gone right back to entrepreneurship. I've always had a side hustle while I was working part time. I don't think I've ever had a full time job. The only full time job was if it was supposed to be part time, but I was the one who was voluntarily filling in the full time hours for that week or that quarter or whatever. But similarly, one, I was one of those who hid my disability until I got the job. Yes, they slowly but surely started to ask on the form that you fill out for your application. But until I'm sitting there looking at the HR person and they say, okay, you're in, I'm like, okay, great. Just so you know, I can't
Yeah.
hear you as well. I can't see you on my right side. I have serious case of fatigue. And they're like, okay, great. But they never oh, they never retract the application at that point because they know at least that's a part of the disability.
But that brings me to that question. This is why I decided to stop applying for jobs because a lot of the form will ask you if you have a disability or not. How did you deal with that? You just said no,
I
and
say no.
then
I lie. That's the only time that I lie. They know that I'm supposed to
right.
check and say. That's the
That
only
was
time I
my
lie.
challenge. Is
hmm
I would basically just not answer that question
hmm
because I was like, if I said no, I'm lying on my resume. if I said yes, I feel like that immediately pushed me in the no pile. If
Hmm.
I just left it blank, it left things open. But I feel like a lot of people with disabilities do fear that question
Hmm.
because, like, the bias immediately right there, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at this point, especially as where we are, I think there's going to be a lot more people wanting to fulfill their own pathways, but they still are depending on the cushion of a corporate job because of
Yeah.
health insurance. Health insurance is another place, at least I can say, that I've easily been discriminated on because most people, if they're not looking at me, if I didn't say any of the things that I said, they're like, wait, you're disabled? That invisible disability plays a huge role, especially when it comes to the health
Right.
insurances.
Yeah, I admit I'm very privileged in the fact that I can communicate with people. But I will say, if I met you in person, I would probably have a lot more challenging time understanding you because I don't have the caption in front of me. It's an interesting aspect. Is I recognize I have that privilege, but at the same time, come on, I need that support. And have you ever been accused of faking it?
I have not, thankfully. I think most people it becomes a aha moment, or they never say it out loud. I know I can read body language, right? When I lose my hearing, that's
Yeah.
the only other sense that I gain, and so I can read body language. So when I do tell them like, "Oh, I'm hard of hearing," or "Oh, I can't see in my right eye," then they start just looking around. So maybe in their mind they're like, "Is she for real? Is she real?" But they've never said it out loud to me. What about you?
Yeah, same. I feel like people will not say it, but however, they will question you online as long as they can do it anonymously.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just so messed up.
Hmm. Now, what can we do? Because both of us are in this season where we are doing in person speaking
Mhm.
engagements. I have a few more to go, and I've had a few where it's some are adapting and some are not. But what are some tips that you have for those who are running these conferences and events in person?
I would say number one, in automatically ask the person what they need in terms of support. Because take the burden away from us from always having to be like, oh, I am so scared. I am very nervous about asking for support because I'll be like, you know what? It's okay. I don't really need an interpreter. But no, the reality is I do need an interpreter. And for you, I don't think you know sign language.
So for me, I studied sign language in high school, but again, coaching community. If I didn't stay around other
Yeah.
deaf or hard of hearing people, it's a language that will go down the
Mhm.
drain. So for me, I know that right now that's probably about the only option. But I'm a lip reader, so even if I
Okay.
have an interpreter, they mouth what they're saying anyway. So I make
Okay.
sure that I do request an interpreter because I let them know that I'm hard of hearing, so that I can at least lip read or be placed up front, which is where they're going to be anyways.
Yeah. So like the other thing is other people will ask because not every person, deaf person, had the same need. For me, I definitely need an interpreter. You said you would want someone that can basically help you lip read so you can be face to face. Because it's not like you're going to be able to stand on stage and be able to lip read someone 20 feet away. That would be an amazing superpower, though. That kind of thing. It's like acknowledging that every speaker is going to have different requests. It does not mean we are high maintenance. It means that we have specific needs that need to be accommodated. The other thing is making sure that the speakers have the opportunity to really do a walkthrough and understand what the setting is like so that they can feel comfortable with the environment, especially if you know that it's going to be dark. That might actually pose a challenge for you and me both. Because we're like, all right, if there's some stairs going up that stage, I have a fear of tripping up those stairs. So I'm like, I want to make sure I know where I'm going. So it's like, are the stairs lighted so that we can walk out without any issue? So it's little things that are just like thoughtful adjustments that I think will make a world of difference as we come in and speak in person.
Absolutely. And I think I want to flip. all of the advice that you said. I second all of the advice that you said, but I want to flip it from the advocacy side. These are the things you should ask for. These are the things that I'm asking for because most of the time they won't ask. You have to say it. You have to say, I
Mhm.
need X, Y, Z. So being able to say that you need these things will
Mhm.
allow them to think a little bit differently, see life
Yeah,
differently.
for sure. For sure.
Okay, now I want to educate people more on both of our disabilities because most people may not even understand just what Usher syndrome is and think I'll give some context. When I educate people on Usher syndrome, I let them know no, not the music artist that performed the Super Bowl. There's an actual name of a syndrome. So tell us more about what you have learned, at least scientifically and statistically, about Usher syndrome.
Usher syndrome, that right now I know there are three different types of Usher syndrome. So each one affects people differently. I don't personally feel like I fall into any of them, which is interesting because even the doctors, I don't know what type to give you. But for some people, for each type, it will usually affect a hearing or vision more than the other. And then the other thing is it also affects other parts like your balance or night vision. I feel like I have pretty good night vision, but my older sister, her night vision is terrible. She cannot see anything. So it's really interesting how, and it is something that is passed on through your genes. So my parents both happen to have recessive genes, which, and then so that meant they had a 1 in 4 chance their kids getting it, and two of their three kids got it. But my sister, who had kids of her own, they do not carry the gene. It's just something that it's a gamble, really. There was no way for my parents to know unless they did genetic testing over 40 years ago, and they wouldn't have done that. Nowadays, like when my both my sisters wanted kids, they did do some genetic testing to see what would happen, and they were both clear of it.
And so I have a personal question for you. I know you're married, but social media may or may not know you're
Yeah.
married. So have you and your husband had that conversation?
We have never, both of us have never ever wanted kids. He wanted kids when he was much younger, but I've just never wanted kids myself. We were lucky that we were both on the same page in terms of no kid. My dog is my kid, basically, which is even better, I think.
Got it. Yeah. And so retinoblastoma is similar as well. There is a certain gene that will get passed down from me. It's a 50-50 gamble as well that the
Hmm.
kid may or may not get it. And so retinoblastoma shows up in children and newborns. And if it's not detected or surgically removed, or not even surgically removed, you can freeze it away now or laser it away now because technology has improved. If it's not caught by any time between the ages of 5 and some lately, I met someone who just got diagnosed at 13. If it's not caught at a certain young age, it could spread to the brain, which the brain is our
Wow.
operating power. And statistically, it could cause death. But the good thing is what they say is okay, we saved your eye, or at least even if you're completely blind, we saved your hearing. As long as they say something is saved, then it's a success to them. But I know what they're working on is to have more people do genetic testing so people
Hmm.
know where that gene comes from. And there's some more statistics that research has to be done to where what war chemical did it actually come from? Because I
Yeah.
am a child of a veteran, and there's some statistics out there, but it got hidden. I found it, but it got hidden. But some of it actually can come from war chemicals. It affects children. It can be detected and should be detected with children, and depending on the environment, like third world countries probably struggle a bit more with making sure that it gets removed
Hmm.
a lot harder than it would for the US or Canada or the UK because the technology, there's tools, there's certain equipment that should be used to show the light. My middle name is Nayar, and just the irony now that I'm realizing that I was saved by the light because back then we had the photographs that you took on the film cameras.
Yeah.
And instead of the red glow, you saw a white glow. And so my parents being able to detect that white glow, that was the first surefire sign that lets you know, okay, something's got to get checked out because there's something going on back there. But nowadays, people will see it and think it's a bad angle and just Photoshop it out, or there's a phone that would just automatically remove things. So those are
Well,
the sure
that's
signs to look
interesting.
out for. Exactly.
Like with the doctor, when they first found out about your eye, did they like automatically know, or did it take a little time to get diagnosed?
It took time to get officially diagnosed. My mom had to get a second opinion because I had a physician, 6 month old checkup, and I had a physician that busted off and said it was nothing. But my
Yeah.
mom had to follow her intuition too. That's the other thing. You gotta trust your gut that you know that something is up. Then when my mom got the second opinion, that's
Yeah.
when it was referred to the ophthalmologist to say, okay, this is what this is, and this is why your daughter needs to have surgery now. That happened a lot too. I remember I have a podcast as well, so occasionally I will try to interview others with vision
Yeah.
impairments, and I even ended up interviewing a. She used to be a eye doctor, and
Mhm.
she said she too just missed it, and she always has that regret. She was like, there was somebody that she missed it. Somebody else had to get a second opinion from it, but if she would have felt better if she was the one who detected it. So it's
Yeah.
easy to miss, yes, because if you're not paying that close attention to your child, especially if quote unquote lazy eye, it can be easy to miss.
Interesting, because I feel like it took a while for the doctor to figure out that me and my sister were deaf. Because I was like considered hard of hearing when I was first born, because I would react to some things, but not all things. So that, but no one ever caught my vision. But there were so many clues as a kid. I would literally trip over stuff. I would just make really stupid falls. I played volleyball in high school. I just stutter, which is like the worst position someone with no peripheral vision can play. I was really bad at it, but they kept me in that position. And then before I would literally have to sit this close to the TV to be able to see it. I was like legally blind in that aspect, not being able to see anything. I had one of those big clocks with the numbers, and I couldn't even see that just like from inches away. So there were so many clues, but it wasn't until I got laser surgery. I wanted laser surgery, is when they were like, something is up with your eye. We need you to go to see somebody else. So I did that. And that doctor, who is like the biggest asshole in the world, was like, oh, you will be blind in 10 years. It's been 23 years. So I still have my vision. But he literally told me that I would lose all my vision in 10 years. But that's not correctly, he was misinformed severely. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the deafness of the hard of hearing. That does seem a bit easier for people to detect because
They
people
have
take
to
it
do a
personal.
hearing test
Yeah.
when people
Yeah.
are born.
Now, but it wasn't always that way. Like
True,
when we were
true.
born, it wasn't always that way. But it's easier for people to detect deafness or hard of hearing because most people take it personally. Are you ignoring me? I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
When people pay attention to that, instead of taking it personal, they can realize, okay, let's take it to the doctor. It's a lot easier for people to pick up deafness or hard of hearing than it is vision loss. But yeah, I had the same thing growing up. I think this pop again. I was diagnosed at 6 months old, so I had the opposite of adjusting to vision with one eye, bumping into walls, and
Hmm.
definitely had to be careful with the sports that had hand-eye coordination and all of those
I
things.
know there are
Yeah.
certain things that I'm like, oh my gosh, like softball.
Mhm.
I'm not good at that either. And
Baseball.
like now, like I do not see the ball go by. What do you mean? That was
Mhm.
terrible, terrible.
That's why we chose to be creatives. We can play it. We can choose our environment, and
I have a question for you.
yes.
Do at any point do you feel like you identify as deafblind, or do you
So,
feel like it's a separate thing for you? I'm very
so
curious.
yeah, I think I'm gonna bring it back to the government side of things. I think I identify as it because that's what the government needs. That's what you need to stay for Social Security, for health insurance, for your job,
Mhm.
for getting any kind of benefit. But I struggled with, again, the invisible disability. I struggled with being told you're not disabled enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will do so in the terms of, okay, I'm going to talk to the government for resources and assistance. But otherwise, no.
Interesting. Interesting. I feel like I only started identifying as deafblind like 3 years ago because I started realizing that every disability is on a spectrum. It's like when I thought about the autism spectrum, that is like when it became really clear to me that every disability is on a spectrum. It's just not really ever talked about. There is no one way of being deaf. There is no one way of being blind. But it does sometimes feel weird to say I'm deaf blind, but I can still see. But I also like to confuse people too. Because I do wear a deaf blind jersey when I go snowboarding. I can do that sport because it's me, but when I wear that jersey, I do it to basically ward people off from coming close to me. And they get very confused because they're like, how can you snowboard if you're deaf and blind? This doesn't make sense. But why should I have to distinguish the fact that being blind does not mean you have zero vision? Being blind means you have a, some sort of vision loss.
Absolutely. That's really what it is. I feel like this conversation can go on and on because we got answers to all of y'all's questions. But I want to end with maybe one thing that people for advocacy and allyship going forward. What is one thing you want people who are able to do differently going forward?
When somebody with a disability asks for support or they share their story, don't minimize it, but also don't apologize for it either. I hate that. I don't like the sympathy in a sense because this is all I've ever known. I don't have any with me mindset. Like I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm deaf blind. I do have moments of like where I am so pissed that I'm like, I just want things to be so much easier for me. But at the same time, I don't feel like the higher power that be would have made me this way if they didn't think I could handle it. I'm agnostic, so I don't believe in God, but there's some kind of higher power. For me, I feel like we were made this way because we can be the people that speak up for other people who can't speak up. When I say I have this and I need support, take it to heart, but don't ever feel sorry for me.
I love that. That's definitely a mic drop moment. That's the clip right there. And how can people find you online, continue to ask you questions, or work with you?
They can find me at Mabley Q, so it's Mabley.com. That's my website. And then Instagram, Mabley_Q there. And I know you'll share that in the comments as well. And those are two different really good ways to get a hold of me. And basically, we can work together in a sense, looking at your entire business as a whole and finding out where the gap that you're missing in order to ensure that your business is designed to be accessible for every person possible. Because majority of the people who have disability will not tell you they have a disability unless they feel like it's a safe space.
Absolutely. And if you want to learn more about me, I am everywhere on social media at the meaning of my middle name, which is Bright Light. ILUMINOUSONE. I am social. I've had a decade plus experience as a social media strategist before I ever became a brand strategist, empowering women to confidently tell their stories online and offline. You can also learn more about me by searching my first name and my last name on YouTube. I would have you start there because I've had a few conversations, and as a reminder, I talked about some of these things in my own story in my TEDx talk. So you can look up Zaakirah, Zakirah. You can add my middle name because there are a couple of other me's out there I saw. So my middle name is Naya, and
You're
as you
not
mentioned,
original? Damn
I'm
it.
not. I'm probably well. I don't know the age difference. I think I saw someone maybe 2 years older than me, but I thought I
Mhm.
was the original. I really thought I was.
I was original with my maiden name.
Okay,
And
what is
then
yours?
I went and got married
Wait, what's
and
your middle
not
name?
OG. My maiden name is Himmelman, Himelmann, and I was literally the only person. And then I went and got married.
Hmm.
Dang it. But I changed my last name because I needed something easier to say. There were way too many M's and N's in the maiden name.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah, you see how many M's I got in my name?
Yeah, for real.
Yes, okay. This has been an amazing conversation, and of course, we probably should be keeping it going. I'm sure that's what the comments will say. I want more, so we'll probably find a way to bring this back. So
For
thank you,
sure.
Erin.